Welcome, everyone, to your complete masterclass for absolutely crushing GST in your ICSE Class 10 exams. We're going to decode every single formula and strategy you'll ever need. So let's just jump right in. Look, if GST problems have been feeling a little confusing, maybe even a bit of a headache, you are in exactly the right place. By the end of this, I promise you'll have the concepts, the formulas, and most importantly, the confidence to tackle any question they throw at you. Okay, let's dive into this by starting with the absolute fundamentals. Think of this as our first stop on a shopping trip. Before we even start buying anything, we've got to learn the rules of the game, right? So what even is GST? Well, simply put, it's an indirect tax. That just means you, the customer, are the one who pays it, not the shopkeeper directly. The whole idea was to simplify India's tax system, getting rid of a bunch of older taxes like that, all under this big banner of one nation, one tax. And here's some really good news for you. For your syllabus, you only need to worry about intra-state sales. That's just a fancy way of saying when something is bought and sold inside the same state. Trust me, this makes all our calculations so much more straightforward. Now, this is the most important rule for intra-state GST, so listen up. Every single rupee of tax that's collected gets split perfectly in half. 50% goes to the central government, that's CGST, and the other 50% goes to the state government, SGST. They're always equal. So if the total GST is, say, 12%, then CGST is 6% and SGST is 6%. It's as simple as that. All right, with the rules down, our shopping trip officially begins. Let's start with a really simple purchase, just to see how these numbers actually work in practice. Let's say we're going to buy a new pair of shoes. Okay, so the shoes we want have a marked price of 1,000 rupees, and the GST rate is 12%. Now, the textbook way to figure out the final bill is a two-step process. First, you'd find the GST amount, so 12% of 1,000, which is 120 rupees. Then, you just add that to the marked price. 1,000 plus 120 gives us a final price of 1,120 rupees. Simple enough. But come on, who has time for two steps in an exam? This right here is the first ninja formula you need to burn into your memory. It lets you get the final price in one single shot. You just plug in the numbers, 100 plus 12, divide by 100, and multiply by 1,000. That's just 1.12 times 1,000, which gets you 1,120 instantly. It's way faster, and honestly, it leaves less room for silly mistakes. Okay, let's build on that. Our shopping trip is about to get a little more interesting. We found something we like, but this time, there's a discount involved. So how does that change things? This is the golden rule, and you absolutely cannot forget this. GST is never calculated on the original price if there's a discount. You always apply the discount first. That new, lower price is what we call the taxable value, and that is the only number you use to calculate the GST on. And of course, there's a ninja formula for this too. Let's imagine a shirt with a marked price of 2,000 rupees, and it's got a 20% discount. This formula does everything at once. See that first part? That handles the discount. It basically calculates 80% of the price. The second part then adds the GST. It is such a powerful one-step solution for what's really a multi-step problem. So what if you're buying a new phone and you get multiple discounts? You know, like 10% off for being an old customer, and then another 20% off for paying with cash? Here's the key. You never, ever add the percentages together. Instead, you just chain the discount parts of the formula, one after the other, before you add the GST at the very end. Each discount gets applied to the new, already reduced price. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Time to put on our detective hats. Because with these problems, you're not trying to find the final bill. No, instead, you're given the final bill, and you have to work backwards to figure out the original price. These are the two classic work backward problems you are going to see on your exams. They might give you the total amount someone paid and the GST rate, and ask you for the original marked price. Or they might give you the marked price and the exact GST amount in rupees and ask you to figure out the GST percentage. Now, the secret to solving these isn't about memorizing a bunch of new formulas. No way! It's about using the one we already know and love, our basic ninja formula. Connects all the dots, the final price, the GST rate, and the marked price. So just think about it like a simple algebra equation. If you know the final price and you know the GST percent, how would you shuffle this formula around to solve for the marked price? You just flip the GST fraction and multiply it by the final price. See? This proves you don't need to memorize dozens of formulas. If you just deeply understand one or two of them, you can rearrange them to solve literally any problem they give you, forwards or backwards.
All right, this is it, the climax of our shopping trip, and the final challenge, the final boss, if you will, the multi-item bill. This is a classic, high-mark exam question that pulls together everything we've just learned.
So here's a typical bill, straight from a question paper. You've got different items, some have discounts, some don't, and they have different GST rates. Your job is to calculate the total grand total to be paid. The trick is to handle each line item one by one, applying its own rules, and only then do you sum everything up at the very end. Okay, pay very close attention here because this is where most students lose marks. The number one trap is applying GST before the discount. Remember the golden rule, and always calculate for each item on its own before you add them up. Just be slow, be methodical, and please double-check your arithmetic. You know, as the great teacher Sir Tarun Rupani says, maths is a machar, a mosquito, and we will crush it. It might be annoying, but with the right tool, you can just swat it away. That's exactly the mindset you need for GST. So, to wrap this all up, here is your master key. The GST split is always 50-50. Discounts always come first. The ninja formulas are your best friend for speed and accuracy. And those inverse problems, they're just algebra. This is what you need to take away. You now have the complete toolkit. You have everything you need. The only thing left is practice. So the question isn't if you can solve these problems. It's which one are you going to start with? Are you going to tackle a discount problem, an inverse case, or go for the final boss, the full multi-item bill? The choice is yours. Now go crush it.